at its most basic, lead is not just an inhalation risk, it is also an ingestion risk. So if you swallow it, it has a poisoning effect in a way that, say, something like asbestos does not. Asbestos is chemically inert. You can eat it, I don't recommend it, but it will not harm you as far as any degree of intoxication is concerned. Lead will, and it's a cumulative toxin. So you can be taking in tiny, tiny quantities every single day, and that builds up. So I haven't actually measured them, and these doors have actually been reasonably finished. But if these doors had been covered in lead-containing paint, and it's a near certainty they will have been, even removing all of the visible paint does not remove the residual lead contamination. So these children in Norwich, in that lead-affected family, the children will have been touching a freshly stripped door or numbers of doors every day, and every time that happens is a chance for them to be getting contamination onto their hands, which when they eat, when they have drinks, if they pick their nose, if they cough, whatever, every time there's that hand-to-mouth contact, that lead is going in. And children absorb far more lead than adults do because the body treats lead like calcium. So pregnant mums as well are far more vulnerable than women who aren't pregnant because they have that high demand for calcium. But so there's whether you're breathing it in or swallowing it, you actually need to stop the problem before you can get to a stage where you're breathing it in or swallowing it. So it's down to managing the work you do, whether it's DIY or in an occupational setting on a building site. You need to be controlling dust. You need to be working wet. You can be wet sanding instead of dry sanding. And the safety data sheets produced by paint manufacturers these days, long before they start talking about the need to manage lead in paint exposure risk, they just talk about the need to manage dust, and that working wet is absolutely the #1 surface preparation method, so far as it is reasonably practicable. But of course the whole industry and the DIYers that copy what the professionals do are all dry sanding. And they're now dry sanding with these small mouse sanders that you can pick up for £15 or £20 and generate massive amounts of contamination without any effort at all. So if people controlled dust properly, then that would go a long way to controlling the lead issue. But it goes a little bit more beyond that, because even the wet residue that results if you do work wet still poses an ingestion risk from hand-to-mouth content. You've still got to protect your home or your work site from that contamination. You've got to do all the cleaning up, and in fact when you do the cleaning up, how do you know you've cleaned up enough? So actually once you've done your cleanup, you really should be doing some sort of what they call clearance testing to make sure that you've cleaned up to recognised limit values, to be reasonably confident that when you're moving into a particular building, it's not going to be affecting you with a residual lead exposure risk.